right, so to begin with, did everybody get one of these little slips of paper with some affirmations on it? If you didn't get one, Dr. Barbara's going to bring you one real quick. And I noticed that last week, if you were here, I think all of Grace needs one, Dr. Barbara, and Bill. But if you were here last week, I guess Tiny handed out affirmations, which I didn't know. So you're going to be doubly blessed with 2 weeks in a row of affirmations. But we're going to use this in a little bit. You don't need it right now, but I just want to make sure you have one to begin with. So my talk title this week is called Flying by the Seat of My Pants. And the origin to this phrase, flying by the seat of my pants, is attributed to a pilot, believe it or not, Douglas Corrigan, back in the 1930s. And Corrigan's transatlantic plan, he had made a plan to go across the ocean, and the FAA or whoever rejected his plan because they said his plane wasn't worthy enough to go across. So he decided that he would just go from Brooklyn to California. So he wrote a new plan. It was accepted. He got in his plane, he took off, and he ended up going across the Atlantic anyway and landed in Dublin, Ireland. And he told everybody that his compass messed up. But everybody knew that he just wanted to do what he wanted to do. So the newspaper articles for that time were Corrigan flew by the seat of his pants. And perhaps you've heard of the saying, wrong way Corrigan. Anybody ever hear that? Well, that's attributed to him. And same with the movie The Flying Irishman. In fact, he even was so arrogant that he played his own part in that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, he wouldn't let somebody else do it. But you know, you have to give him some credit for just standing his own ground and doing what he wanted to do. And I don't know about you, but I know there's been times in my life that I've done things just because I wanted to do them, right? I mean, somebody told you not to do something, and yet you kind of go, I always say it's like your dad telling you you're not going to the dance, and you figure out a way to go to the dance anyway, right? Yeah. And in spite of what anything else happens, you might go ahead and do something. And I know that there have been times that I've purposely gone out and done things by the seat of my pants. So today we're going to explore how sometimes we spiritually fly by the seat of our pants. But let us first affirm our statements of truth together, please.
I am a child of God.
I am accepting good in my life. I am accepting my good now. Well, when we first start coming to Unity, and this is Unity of Wichita, my first Unity church I ever went to, my home church where I grew up. But when we first go into Unity, we feel a sense like this is the place we're supposed to be. It just feels good, you know. It just feels like what people are talking about and the energy in there and everything. It's just, you know, it's just like, yes. And so you go there and you think you're growing spiritually, and yet you don't know how you're growing spiritually. You just know it. You feel it. So you might be growing spiritually by the seat of your pants at that place. And I think we need to know the meaning of flying by the seat of my pants, which is deciding a course of action as you go along, using your own initiative and perceptions rather than a predetermined plan or mechanical aids. And I know that the first time I walked into Unity Church, I knew I was in that perfect place and that I had longed for this my entire life, even though I didn't even know that I was looking for something spiritual, because I really didn't. I just kept feeling like there was something more for me to do, and I figured out that it was my spiritual growth. But I showed up every Sunday after that first time because I was just like, oh man, this is great. It was like a spiritual adrenaline, you know. I felt it and I knew it, and I was like, wow, I got to have more of that. And it came to a point where I finally decided I'd take a few classes here and there, and then I even got brave and started teaching the Uniteens, which is the middle school kids, which was really brave, you know, to do. But I kept hearing that announcement in church, oh, we need help, and finally I said it. But all of this was recharging me in new ways. My energy grew to a level where I felt unstoppable, and I was on fire. Anybody else ever feel like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This girl is on fire.
I don't think anybody knew that I was just flying by the seat of my pants through this whole thing. Because anything spiritual or religion, you know, as they call it, I was totally clueless. You know, I had gone to Catholic school, Catholic church growing up, but the minute I got out of high school, forget it, you know. I said, you know, that's not for me. And I didn't even go to church again until I walked into a Unity church. But sometimes we plunge ourselves into situations not really knowing how to do them. You know, or not really knowing even how it's going to come forth. And you know what? That's okay, because sometimes that plunging into a situation is exactly what we need to do at that moment. And we know that if we know that we're going to gather the information we need as we go and we'll be able to make it, then guess what? We're expressing faith. That's an expression of faith. When you can jump into something knowing that it's going to be okay, that you're going to be able to figure it out, that's a form of faith. And don't we want to express faith in our lives? Yeah, we do. And we can move forward knowing that all is well. When we can do that with a situation, then guess what? It all is going to be okay. Because we know it within ourselves. And we're following that intuition, that gut feeling that we know that we know. And of course, this is the month of faith. So, you know, it's a good one to kind of focus on that attention and put some energy towards that and just kind of let yourself go in that knowing. But I didn't really know what was going on with me at the time, believe it or not. I knew I was on fire. I knew I was feeling good. I knew I wanted to go to church every week. I knew I was getting these spiritual, intuitive things happening to me. But I would always say, my favorite saying is, que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Anybody ever go down that path? Yeah. You know, you just kind of go, oh, it's all going to be okay. Que sera. It'll be okay. Well, I had that approach to everything in my life, believe it or not. I mean, something bad would happen, I said, oh, que sera. Well, will be, will be. It's supposed to happen that way, you know. And if something good happened, oh, isn't that wonderful? That's the way it's supposed to be. You know, it was always like that. And you never really knew what direction you were going. I just thought that's the way life was. Oh, you know, I got pregnant. Oh, I guess I get married. Oh, I guess I raise this kid. Oh, I guess I get divorced. You know, all these things were happening, and I just thought they were happening, you know, in spite of anything I was doing. You know, I didn't think it was. And I would say, and maybe you have said this too, God has a plan. Anybody ever say that?
Yeah.
Some people might say it today, and that's okay too. But does God really have a plan for each of us?
Yes.
I mean, that's something to think about. And really, Pat, I know you hollered out yes. There's a 50-50 chance here. But God doesn't have a plan for us unless you think of God's plan as being all good. Because if you think that God's plan is all the good that's supposed to come to us, then yes, God has a plan. But do we have a playbook written out for each and every one of us that has our karma and predestination determined for us? No. Because you see, if this was true, if there was this predestination and there was this karma out there, then guess what? We might only experience the bad. We might not experience all the good, and God is only good, and God only has good in store for us. So we can't have karma or predestination. Now, don't get worked up if you believe in it or whatever, because, you know, we're open and receptive here in Unity, and we like to allow people to unfold in their own spiritual path, however. But I'm going to talk about karma and predestination today, so just hold tight. But, you know, we'll say somebody has karma. What goes around comes around. If they're going to be mean, by golly, it's going to come back to them. Anybody ever say that? Yeah, or think it? Yeah. And if God is only good, is that what we're supposed to be thinking? No, we're not. We are supposed to hold that highest good. If something could happen and we could say, oh, that's unfortunate, but you know what? Something good is going to come out of that. Now, that's a better way to approach it, don't you think?
Yes.
But we don't always do that. That human side of us kind of tends to go to that area where we kind of throw it back at somebody. Oh, they'll get theirs. But we don't want to do that. And Fillmore did a good job of defining karma for us. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, when he wrote about people who don't believe in capital T truth. And he wrote this. He said, they believe in karma, the accumulated effects of the sins of past lives. The burden of karma they have carried for ages, and they expect to carry it for ages more until they have worked out of it. This makes them victims of a blind fatalism, weary treadmill travelers from birth to death and from death to birth. So it becomes this continual path that you think you're on, that everything that's bad has happened, it's going to come back and you have to keep working it out, keep working it out. Well, it's not that way. Because Fillmore explains it to us like this: there is no such hopeless note in the doctrine of Jesus Christ. He came to bring a full consciousness of abundant life, complete forgiveness and redemption from all sin, victory over death and the grave, so delivering man from any occasion for re-embodiment and from all beliefs of karma. And that's from Dynamics of Living. And don't get so scared about this definition, because we have to kind of synthesize for ourselves what we believe and don't believe. But, and I'm going to reveal even more. But we go back to that idea that if we are here to work through any sins or error thinking or anything, can't we do it in this now moment? Can't we even in a breath say, crud, I screwed up, and now I have to figure out how to unscrew up, or I made a mistake. Can I resolve this with somebody? Or I've said the wrong thing. I need to apologize. In that moment of even having that thought, before the words even come out of your mouth with somebody, you've already erased that sin or error thinking, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And why is that? Because, yes, consciousness, and also because we have the gift of choice. We have the gift of free will. God gave us free will. So if we have free will, then guess what? The only plan that can be made is from us. We are the ones who make the plan. God has a plan for our life. We're the only ones that can make that plan, because we are the ones who determine what we're going to do next. Every one of you got up this morning and decided what you were going to wear. I don't think anybody laid out clothes for each other, did you? Well, never worn. We know that one. We laugh. But we all decided to come here too today, and that was our choice. That was free will. So we do create our own plan for our life. We are holding the plan. I love this from Unity Minister Reverend Temple Hayes down in St. Petersburg. She writes, karma, in popular terms, means that in this lifetime or in other lifetimes, a soul has made certain choices, and karma is a consequence of those choices. That sounds all far better than what Fillmore defined as karma, but Fillmore was taking the actual definition of karma and letting us know. And even in this mild version, though, you still look at things as like the more evil you do or the bad things that you do, the more you're going to get in the next lifetime. And that's kind of scary for me. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't want to relive any bad. And I don't want to keep experiencing it all the time. I mean, how many of us have been in that cycle already? Something comes up in our lives and we think, why is that happening again? I thought I had gotten over that. I thought I had forgiven. I thought I had worked through that. I put a lot of prayer energy and put a lot of journaling and put a lot of forgiveness work and all of this into that particular thing, and then it pops up again. Some people could call that karma. But it's not. It's about our souls unfolding and the desires that we have within our soul, longing for that pure expression of the Christ within to come forth. And in every breath we have the choice that we get to do it. I like to think of karma kind of like being saved. And for you that are new here, please don't run out the door. But being saved is kind of scary too, because a lot of churches will tell you, if you are not saved, if you do not go jump into that baptismal pool and get dunked, then you are not going to go to heaven. And where is heaven? Heaven's right here on this earth. The very breath we're breathing, every choice that we make, every moment that we walk, every step we take. Oh, that's a song, isn't it?
Yeah.
It comes, I'm sorry. But we don't have to be saved from somebody else saying that we're saved. All we have to do is decide within ourselves that what mistake we've made, that we forgive ourselves for, that we forgive ourselves for not loving enough, for not caring enough, for not expressing this Christ within enough with another person. And that's all it takes. Because in unity, we believe that we are working with the law of cause and effect. When we recognize our mistakes and realize that our mistakes are creating consequences, we are healed in that very breath of, or that very nanosecond of knowing that. There is not a record book keeping track of the number of good and bad actions we take. Karma's effect ends once our awareness is brought to wholeness. Think about this for a moment, because it's kind of funny. Because if we think that God is keeping a record book, oh, Mark's been bad. Oh, Jackie's so good. Look at her. She is so good with everything that she's doing. Oh, there's no bad one for Mark. But doesn't then God start looking more like Santa Claus than God? I mean, making a list, checking it twice, then find out he's not. Anybody else think? No. But I think that's what it kind of sounds like when you say that God has a plan or that God is keeping track. I mean, God doesn't have the energy to do that because God is only seeing good. God doesn't see the bad. If God saw the bad, there would be no bad, wouldn't there? But we, in the human condition, get the choice to choose whether we're going to do good or bad. And there's a whole lot of people out there doing what we label bad. But we have to be the one to change our consciousness. So we have to be the ones to know. The knowing of the law becomes the practice of the law, which leads to results. It goes back to that idea of faith. That knowing that we know that God is in the midst of every situation. Jesus wanted us to understand how to pray by declaring to God, give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us as we forgive others. Forgive us is first. It doesn't say we have to forgive others so that we can be forgiven. It says we have to forgive ourselves. That's a huge thing. We always say, oh, I forgive you. I forgive you. That's silliness. You have to forgive yourself before forgiveness even goes into action. And it has nothing to do with the other person, really. It only has to do with the choice that you made. In the schoolroom of life, we learn to do better. Therefore, we create better results in our lives. It's that easy. It's that easy. Everything that we choose to do that takes us on a better path, we do better for our own lives. And that's powerful. Breathe. So the whole thing is we have to become aware of the good. But how do we become aware? We become aware through prayer. Now, I know we talk about prayer a lot in Unity, and we've talked about it a lot today, which was serendipitous. I mean, even the daily word in Warren's meditation, all were aligned with that idea of prayer. But Unity was founded on prayer, and we know prayer works. All of us here know that prayer works. I mean, we've seen it work. And so why not encourage each other to pray more, to be in that prayerful state, to pray and meditate, to take that time? I think it's huge. If we want peace and serenity and calmness in our lives, then we have to go to that place of beingness and remembering who we really are. We are that expression of God here on this life, in this lifetime, in this world, in this physical body. And we can declare through our prayers the gratitude we have with all the blessings that we receive. And gratitude is more than just keeping the journal. Gratitude is actually seeing the good that we know that is here. It's that knowing that we know being expressed through us as gratitude. Now, you might be still wondering about predestination, because I haven't touched on that yet. And you might be wondering, is there such a thing called predestination? And say this fast, are our lives predetermined? Yeah, well, Webster defines it as this, predetermination as the preordination of men to everlasting happiness or misery. Excuse me. But Charles Fillmore rolls this out about predestination. Since man is created in the image and after the likeness of God, he is predestined to bring the perfect pattern into expression. Whew. Now that puts it all on us, folks. We have to take on that responsibility that we are don't you agree we were created in the image and likeness of God?
Yes.
And if we were, do you think of God as being perfect?
Yes.
Then are we supposed to express that perfectness?
Yes.
Yes, we are. And I know that sometimes we probably think, oh man, I can't do that. You got to be kidding me. I can't express perfectness. I can't express how God expresses, but we are the element on this earth to express it. Who else is going to do it? So we are predestined to emulate God through us. But I have a few questions I want you to answer, and you can use that blank spot on your in your bulletin if you just, and there's pens in front of you. Just pick up your bulletin, and because there's 6 questions altogether. So you have some space in there, and they're just like one-word answers is all they are. So here we go. Question 1. Who in your life have you admired or thought of as a role model? A person. You can't use God on this one. Sorry. Okay. What characteristics did you want to emulate of theirs? And the third one on this one, is it difficult to find the good in this person? Probably not. Yeah. I mean, if you've admired him or thought of him as a role model, you probably see the good in him all the time. So now I want you to think about your own idea of God and answer these questions. What is it about God that you admire? And then, what characteristics did you want to, wrong question. What characteristics would you like to change or strive for perfection in your own life? Because think about this. If God is perfect and you are to express or emulate God, then how can you bring that forth in your life? Or what is it that you need to work on to bring forth that particular characteristic in your life? And it could be the same answer as the characteristic that you put for that favorite person. Maybe not. And then the last question is probably the hardest sometimes for us, but is it difficult to find the good within yourself? And some people might say no automatically, but let me point out one thing to you, is that I capitalize the G for good, and we know that if G is capitalized on good, then that's a synonym for God. So can you answer that question? Is it difficult to find God within myself? Which might be a little harder to answer. And if you're struggling with any of these questions, it's okay, because sometimes we just have to fly by the seat of our pants, don't we? Yeah. And sometimes we fly by the seat of our pants until we can find the answers that our soul really longs for, that our soul wants to bring forth, that our soul needs to be answered. But it says in Genesis 17:1, I am God Almighty, walk before me and be thou perfect. Now it doesn't say follow me, it doesn't say walk beside me, it doesn't say let me carry you, it says walk before me. And if God put us to walk before God, then we are to be that expression of God on this earth, aren't we?
Yes.
We are to bring forth all of that good that God wants in this lifetime for each and every one of us. And the only person that can make those choices is ourselves. And it's a beautiful thing. I know I want to choose to do that every day, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Logic and observation clearly reveal the freedom of all of us in everything that we do. We are given freedom to think and be all that we can be. We are the ones who determine to live from the truth of heaven on earth. Well, recently, Bill Sawyer recommended this book, Proof of Heaven. If you haven't read it, I suggest you read it. It's by a neurosurgeon, Eben Alexander. There's his picture. Anyway, it's about his near-death experience. And it was a fascinating story about what was happening to him while his body was shutting down from meningitis, and his brain was already considered dead. his family and everybody was coming in and talking to him, and he knew all the doctors that were working on him, and he himself knew what was happening because he was a neurosurgeon. But he reveals that there is more to this physical existence than we can experience right here on life on earth. But he says that should be our goal, is to be able to experience more than that. But he wrote this beautiful quote, and I love it. He said, I understood that I was a part of the divine and that nothing, absolutely nothing, could ever take that away. So in that near-death experience, he went back into the oneness. The false suspicion that we can somehow be separated from God is the root of every form of anxiety in the universe. And the cure for it was the knowledge that nothing can tear us from God ever. And think about that. All the anxiety in the universe is because we look at separation. We look at ourselves as not being good enough to express God on this earth. We have been told maybe in the past that we are not worthy of God's expression. And yet, who else is on this earth to express it, or share it, or be a part of it, or pray about it, or meditate about it? We are. Nature does all of its own thing out there, and does it well for us. We are the ones that's supposed to bring the rest of it forth. And it's a beautiful, beautiful affirmation of the oneness of God. And when Dr. Alexander was near his near-death experience, towards in that experience of the near-death experience, he actually said he went to a place that he calls the core. But he describes it in such, you have got to read the book because it's like 3 pages of the description of what that core felt like to him. And when you read it, you know that it was beyond the words, and he says this, it was beyond the words he could write. And yet the description that he wrote made you feel like you were in the oneness of God. It'd be a beautiful meditation in itself. But he wrote that this is what he heard in the core. He said, God said, he calls God several different things, but he does call God God too. But you are loved and cherished dearly forever. You have nothing to fear. There is nothing you can do wrong. So I invite you for just a moment to close your eyes and allow yourself to feel the energy of God moving in and through you. Can you feel that energy? Can you just feel yourself within yourself? Because that's God. And think about God speaking these statements to you. That still small voice that you experience in prayer and meditation, that inner guidance that you receive throughout the day. When you know that that is just God's guidance, sending you a different pathway on the road or telling you to call somebody, those little nudges from God, that's the feeling of God within us. If we can bring more of that forth within us, we can bring it into fruition into the world. So open your eyes for a minute, or open your eyes again, and let's look at these statements, and let's affirm them together, shall we? And they are on this little sheet too, if you look at the one side. But let's say them together, shall we? You are loved and cherished dearly forever. You have nothing to fear. There is nothing you can do wrong. How do you feel? Do you feel loved and courageous and strong? Do you feel like those qualities that you wrote down about the person that you admired are possible for you too? And do you feel like you have nothing to fear? And are you ready to change your life? Because that is a huge thing. Because even when we struggle to accept that idea of perfection or being that perfection of God expressing through us, we can use these statements from Dr. Alexander heard in the core. We can use these and say to ourselves, God said this. God didn't say it just to him. God said it to all of us. It wasn't just for this guy who wrote the book. It's for all of us to know. He brought it back and shared it with us through that book, but it's for us. And on the other side of that sheet, after you read these affirmations from the core, I invite you to look at these that Fillmore wrote. I am, let's say them together.
I am the child of God, and the Spirit of the Most High dwells in me. I am the Lord. I am, or the Christ, of my mind, and express only that which is constructive and upbuilding. I am predestined to be the perfect expression of God, and the fullness of all good is mine.
Take time in prayer and meditation. Use your prayer and your affirmations and see if you make a difference in your life. And if you still struggle, that's okay. Know that flying by the seat of your pants is okay until you have mastered being the best that you can be and the perfect expression that you already are. Thank you for being here today. God bless you.